Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we're going to be doing a review on the newest season of Black Mirror, one of my personal favorite TV shows. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out. Hopefully, today's review will urge you to do so if you haven't already. I'm going to go ahead and say this will have spoilers in it, so spoiler alert! Today I'm co-hosting with Boa Hancock and Rory Norzoro. Totally unrelated to what we're talking about, but they're a lot nicer to look at than me. I mean, come on. Well, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Anyway, I was super amped for the new season. I was literally counting down the days until it came out. I'm a night owl as it is, so I was really hoping that was just going to come out like 12:01. Bam, it was on. It wasn't, so I was super disappointed. I was up early the next day. Boom. Episode 1, done. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, done, in the bag. A little late posting this, it's the holidays, had to spend time with some family. But, I mean, this is really my first review on something. I mean, I talk to my friends all the time. If they had, they do have ears. I was going to say if they have ears. They obviously have ears. But they would already been falling off because I talk their ear off about everything all the time. But, I mean, this season did not disappoint. I had my fingers crossed, and I was just like, please continue to do what you're doing. And it did, and it delivered, and I loved it. There really wasn't any episode that I hated. I think it was last season, there was the bee episode. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone knows the bee episode if you're a fan of Black Mirror. And that one really was a disappointment, because it wasn't Black Mirror. And this one didn't have a bee episode, thank God. One thing I really love about Black Mirror is that even though each episode is separated and it's its own individual story, they're all connected as well. So, and what I mean by that is like, they're all separate. If like these are the storylines, they also coexist within one another. So like, we have the San Junipero stuff, and I'll talk about that later on a little bit, from time to time. But, we also, so if San Junipero is over here on my pinky, and then we also have, now we have the USS Callister, because, it has that stuff, and then now all of a sudden we have, I'm talking about this finger, it's really, it's hard to with that finger by itself for me. But, so we have San Junipero, and then we have, USS Callister, and then we have Black Museum, and I don't know if I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, and they all use the same device. So I mean, it's obviously in the same universe, in my opinion. And then I don't know if it's ever been stated 100%, but the very first episode, and I can't remember what it's called, the thing about the eyes and how it's recording everything all the time, that one with like the couple and everything like that, in my opinion, that is very, the technology for that is very similar to, I should have wrote these episode names down, the one from season 3 where they're like doing the whole swipe phone thing, and the lady like is trying to get her score up, because that's all about, it's, stuff in the eyes and everything like that. So I mean, a lot of these technologies are the same, and that's one thing I really like about it, because it's not just like, oh, we have a story here, and yeah, there it goes. Okay, now what are we gonna do now over here? They take it, and then they do so that, and the same thing with the Army one. The Army one also used technology in the eyes. So, I mean, they're just constantly going off one another, and I love it. But just because they use similar things, or some of the exact same technology, they don't depend on one another, and they can stand alone, and that's what I love about it. Because some things some other, shows and everything, they need this or they need that, and this doesn't. And that's one of the things I really like about the show. But anyway, I'll get to talking about the actual season 4 stuff right now. So first episode, the USS Callister. aka the Star Trek episode. That's kind of what everyone's calling it or referencing to it. And if you're new to the show or whatever, Dark Mirror is kind of our warning to what technology could do to us if we're not careful, or the future that we're going towards or whatever. And what I want to try not to do is literally walk you hand in hand through every single episode, because I want people to go and watch the show because it is just so amazing. So I'm just kind of go through some of my favorite points or plots of every single episode, like the cliff notes in a sense. So excuse me, it's basically like the creator of what I would consider the Junipero, sorry, little headpiece, and like the Infinity Update is what they call it in the episode. And basically, this dude's messed up. Basically, it's just like a warning, like, hey, don't piss people off in your office, because this will happen in the future. He has made a little bubble universe, separate from the actual game. And he's just like a god, this deity in his own little universe, Star Trek universe. And he has this machine that he has to get your DNA for, and he puts your DNA in there, and he makes a separate you in his universe, and he is the captain of that ship, and he, you better do what he says or else. There's this one part where like he's holding out his hand to this new lady, and I'm like, whoa, is he fixing to do a force choke in here? Like, what's going on? And he basically does. He does like this super omega OP force choke. Like, her face goes blank, like just skin, and she's on the ground like she doesn't have a mouth, a nose, eyes, nothing, just skin. And he's like, I'll just leave you like this. You won't die. You're just gonna be gasping for air, and you'll never get it, but you won't die. And I'm like, dang, you're such a dick. But it's like that, the whole entire way. And he can come in and out of that universe whenever he wants, but the people he put there are stuck, and they're basically having to play these roles, because either they're going to get OP force choked or turn into these horrible crab roach looking monsters, because this guy can basically do whatever he wants. He is the god of that universe. And it's basically just their story of how they're going to get out of this. And one thing I love about Dark Mirror is that, unlike everything that Hollywood is putting out, it's not predictable. You think you know who the good guy is, you think you know who the bad guy is, you think you know what the plot is, and all of a sudden, bam, it turns, and you're like, what? Mind explosions! And you're just left like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming, or how are they going to get out of this, or I thought that I knew what was what. And then you're left with like just amazement, and like the writing in the show is absolutely amazing. I wish we could make copies of all the creative team and then spread them out through Hollywood, because Hollywood really is just in desperate need of creativity. And this show just constantly delivers great content. So episode 2, Archangel. Again, sticking with the Dark Mirror trend, pretty dark. This one basically was just the futuristic take on what helicopter parenting is. A parent who is like on top of their child, like has to be on top of them, like knowing what they're doing, where they are, who they're with 24/7. It basically is just like this lady loses her kid, where they're at a park, and she wanders off, follows a cat, and the parent loses sight of her for like a little bit, and then gets her back. Nothing mischievous, just a kid wandering off, and it sucks. And then they do this thing where a little implant gets put in this kid's brain or something, and basically anything the kid sees, the mom can see on this tablet, like a little iPad or something. And what's even more twisted, though, is that the mom can put this filter on where anything that the kid sees that is disturbing or raises the heart rate or anything like that, she can filter it so it kind of gets like blurred out in a sense. And so, you know, the kid every now and then walks past this dog, and the dog's barking at her. You know, it not only muffles the sound, but it blurs out the dog. So she just sees this blur and into muffled sounds. One point, her grandpa is having a heart attack. The kid isn't doing anything because all she sees is this blob kind of laying on the ground. But the mom gets a distress on her iPad, and she kind of throws off the filter, and she's like, "Oh my God, my dad's dying." You know, so for a good bit of this kid's life, she's just kind of an oddball because, I mean, she doesn't necessarily know what blood is, because as soon as she sees blood, it gets blurred. You know, no violence in a sense because it gets blurred. Curse words, anything like that. If anyone tries to show her stuff like that, they start to get blurred out. It's just crazy. And I mean, eventually they have this conversation, and it gets, you know, they leave it, and then the kid grows up. You know, she's a teenager in high school, and then boy gets introduced. You know, boy meets girl, and so on and so forth, and everyone knows that story. And of course, mom has that tablet stored in the attic, right? You know, and then daughter's supposed to be at her friend's house watching a movie, but daughter's not at that friend's house. Daughter's with that boy. She just happens to turn on that tablet and saw some stuff that she probably shouldn't have seen. And that's when it gets really messed up. Is, you know, it was one thing when this kid was like a little tiny kid, but she's almost an adult now, and she was still trying to control her. And just some crazy stuff happens. And I mean, just go watch it. Especially, like, if you can relate to that helicopter parenting, or if you have anyone who's been, like, super overbearing, you're definitely going to relate to this episode a lot more than people who haven't been in anything kind of like that situation. So, it's just, again, Black Mirror throws some crazy stuff at you. Number 3, Crocodile. This was probably my least favorite episode. It wasn't bad. I wouldn't say it was bad at all, but it's just the characters in it, I couldn't get behind anyone, and then some of them just didn't deliver for me. So, like, I was just kind of, like, watching it, holding out the entire episode, and I was like, alright, when is something just gonna, like, kind of pop off? And, like, this was honestly kind of, like, the most sad one, like, the most depressing-ish episode. Because, I mean, this lady, it starts out with her and her lover. They just happen to hit someone on a bike on this, like, like, barren road, and they decide, oh my God, we just gotta dump the body. You know, they had been drinking, doing some drugs. Don't want to get the cops involved, right? Wrong. Always get the cops involved. You did something wrong. But anyway, that's what they decided to do. And, you know, she helped the driver out, and, you know, at that point in time, and anyway, like, years go by, and, you know, they're not together anymore. She's a successful speaker or whatever, and, you know, she has a life and a new husband and a 9-year-old kid or something, and, you know, all of a sudden, the driver of the vehicle meets up there in a hotel room, and he's like, hey, you know, I'm good now. I'm working the steps. You know, I'm totally, you know, doing rehab and all this and that, and I want to tell the wife or the husband that I hit. You know, because she never moved out of that house. She's waiting for him to come home, and, you know, all these years, and she hasn't moved on because she thinks that he might come home, and she doesn't know that we just threw him in the bottom of the lake. And this lady freaks out, and there's a whole thing, and she ends up killing the dude. So basically, now we have 2 people that she's responsible for, and so then basically it's just downhill from there. And the really cool thing about this episode, though, is that that's kind of the main plot. There's a subplot to this where this guy gets hit by this it's this futuristic pizza delivery vehicle. No driver, it just drives around itself, and it happens to hit this person. And this insurance person is going around trying to figure out what happened so they can make a claim. and they have this device. It's different from the San Junipero device, but it still goes on like your temple. And she has this little box, like little TV box, like super old school looking, but of course it's futuristic. And she tries to get you to recall what happened. She pops open a beer because it smelled like a brewery around there. She plays a song because someone else said that this song was playing, and she's trying to get you to remember what you saw. And that device that's hooked up to your temple is playing a projection of what you actually saw, or what you feel like you saw, for her. And then basically she's compiling all this evidence to take to the court or whatever. And so this is going on, and basically through this lady's investigation, she finds her way to this woman who has now killed 2 people, because that accident happened right outside this lady's window. And obviously woman A, who has killed 2 people now, doesn't want woman B, the investigator, to go around and rifling through her brain, because she's going to see something that she doesn't like and could, do her some harm. And but she's there at her house, just popped up, was like, "Hey, I need to get inside your brain, lady." And so she's in the bathroom. She's like trying to make up this fake story and trying to make herself believe that that's not, that this is what really happened, so she can go past this basically futuristic lie detector tester, like, thing. And it's working at first, but inevitably it doesn't work. So she ends up killing that lady. But before that, she finds out that that lady has a husband. So she goes, kills that lady's husband. And right as she's fixing to walk out the house, she hears a baby cry. She can't just leave the house. She goes in and she kills the baby. That's right. This episode 3. Okay, you don't see anything happen, so like, if anyone's gonna get turned off to that, like, you don't see her stab a baby or anything, but it's hinted at and everything. But the ending did not disappoint, because I was like, okay, this episode can't just be super depressing and like, oh, why did I watch this? I'm just sad. Like, this lady sucks. What is gonna happen? The justification comes in when they bring in the same kind of people for like the insurance lady. They have like a detective unit or whatever that uses the same stuff. And the lady, I guess, didn't see the guinea pig or whatever in the corner. And the guinea pig gets her. They hooked that little device up to a guinea pig. And the guinea pig, like, basically, they read that thing's mind. And that's what gets this lady. She goes and kills like 4 or 5 people, like, including a baby. And then she's done by a guinea pig. And I was like, oh, man. Yo, sucks to suck, lady. You killed a baby. You deserve it. But I was just like, I didn't see the guinea pig coming. Anyway, that's Crocodile. Like I said, it was probably my least favorite. And I think I've talked about it the most, which is ironic. But anyway, just hang in there if you're watching Crocodile, because the ending is well worth it. So number 4, Hang the DJ, is probably the most happiest Black Mirror episode I've seen. I mean, it's the most, like, it's the lightest, it's the, what did I write here? Like, the most feel-good, that's how, like, I describe it, like, the most feel-good Black Mirror episode I've watched. And it's basically just like a future Tinder. It's like this dating app where, 2 people test their compatibility, and it's just ran through to see, how strong your connection is, or how, what your bond will be or whatever. And I mean, again, I thought, hey, I might know this, this plot or whatever, this is what's going to happen. And then bam, I was like, you got me, Black Mirror, you got me. I didn't see it coming. But I mean, it was so good. I mean, and the actors that they had in there, they did a really good job portraying a connection. Because I've watched other things and I'm like, y'all two are supposed to be in love, and I don't see it. But this episode, it does not disappoint. I mean, And it's basically just, they have this device, and you're in this, I can't remember the word, like, it's system is what they kind of call it. You're in this system, and you show up on a blind date, basically, and then they have to tap their devices at the same time, and it tells you how long you get to spend together. It's like 12 hours, 48 hours, a week. One person gets paired up for like 3 years. So, I mean, huge time frames, to like hours, and they're supposedly, the system is gathering data, or data, however you want to say it, so they can find your ultimate match. That's like the whole gist. Like, we're pairing you up, we're gathering data to find your ultimate match so you guys can be happy forever. So just hang in there, because it's going to work. And they say something like, we have a 99.8% of finding ultimate matches or whatever. And at the end, because like these people, they date once in the very beginning, and then they find all these random people, and it's just like, our love keeps pulling us together, but the system's pulling us apart. It's one of those storylines, and I was like, we couldn't write something different, but they did a really good job with it. And at the very end, they rebel, and it's like, oh yeah, beat the system. But they are the 99.8, like, rebellion or something, like, or they're the 998th test or something like that. Like, the numbers match up, and I'm like, that's where the number comes from. And like, out of all the simulations run, and then basically it was just a dating app, and then like it takes us out of the program and into the real world, and you see the two real people and realize, we just kind of saw their app doppelgangers, if you will, and realize they're the ones who use the app, and that's how it worked. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but again, just watch Black Mirror and your mind will be blown, and you'll be like, thanks, Jacob, this is a great show. This one was surely shot in black and white, and it's how they did all the camera angles, and like, I'm sure there's a better terminology for it, but I'm just going to say camera angles. So, I mean, if this lady was screaming in a chase, it literally took you back to old school horror movie feel. I mean, yeah, it had the Black Mirror, blood and guts and kind of stuff. Like, it didn't shy away from the gore, but it just had that old school horror, chase scene vibe. Like, oh my god, I have a monster after me, and like the camera shakes right in her face. And it wasn't just that, like, nowadays in a horror movie you can't get away from that, like, glitchy shake thing. Everything has a glitchy shake thing, and this was like legit black and white horror. It just had a classic feel to it, and I was like, this is fresh. Like, I felt so, it was just like, just that breath of fresh air, even though it was like legit black and white and everything like that. Like, it didn't need the bright colors. I was just relieved just to not see like some twitchy freaking thing crawl out of a box or something, because that's been, get away from that, please. But anyway, it's I think her name's Bella, and she brings two guys to this warehouse, and they're on a mission. They gotta get something for her sister's son, and it's really eerie because you don't see anyone else, you don't see anything else, no animals, and they're like going to raid this warehouse. This guy's trying to steal this car, and it's still kind of futuristic because the guy's trying to hack this car basically. You're like, oh, what are you hacking a car for, dude? But they're checking all these aisles in this warehouse, and they're like looking for a specific crate number, and he's like, this guy asked the main lady, Bella, hey, you sure nothing's in here? And she's like, nah, but they don't want to be any fun. So they find the crate. They're being really quiet, and you're like, why are they being so quiet? Like, what is the enemy here? Like, why is the earth so barren? Or, like the planet they're on, why is it so barren? And so basically they find this huge ladder, and they find the crate and everything, and the guy gets up, and as soon as he removes the box, you see like this metal head looking thing, and it shoots this little ball up out of like the center of its, what you will find out, its back. and it like spins in the air, then it shoots out all these projectiles. I'm like, dang, this dude's already dead, because it's like, and it's just a bunch of shrapnel that shoots out, but basically it's not. It's like these little, it is sharp shrapnel, but it's like little trackers, and the lady gets hit in her leg, and all of a sudden this thing stands up and has 4 legs, and I'm like, what is this thing? And oh man, this thing was, it was so simple, but it's scary because I've seen YouTube videos of something similar that we're already building, and I'm like, oh, this is how we're going to go out. This little dog thing is going to kill us all. And basically this thing had a shotgun on one of its like front paws, and it's literally like slaughters this dude on the ground. He's just like right in the back of the head, and I was like, homeboy's dead. Bye. Lady runs, and this thing is crazy. Like, it runs like a cheetah. Like a mechanical little dog thing is running like a cheetah, chasing down the cars that they stole and like the one that they came in. Hops in the back of the other one, shotguns the other guy that was in there, and then sticks this little USB thing that he has in its other leg, hacks that car, chases down the other lady. And I'm like, yo, whoa, this thing's super scary. Can just drive cars and stuff with a little USB stick. And I mean, it's, the whole story is basically her versus this dog. You know, she has to dig the tracker that got shot into her leg out, and at this point it's now just a survival story, like her versus this mechanical dog. So I mean, it was just a really fun story, and then again it has to take that Black Mirror twist where, you know, she finds a house to stay in, and she's trying to find supplies, and oh, she finds some car keys and gotta get out, and, you know, oh, but of course the car won't start, and she found a shotgun, and, you know, so she ends up trapping the dog. And you know, at one point the dog loses its shotgun arm, but then it attaches a kitchen knife to it, and it's just like spinning the kitchen knife really fast. I'm like, this thing is unstoppable. What is she gonna do? So she ends up blowing its face off with a shotgun after 2 shots. I was like, wow. So you think she's won, she's finally gonna get away, that's it. And at certain parts she's been radioing these people like, you know, let this person know I'm not gonna make it, or, you know, like, I'm gonna try and make it, and, you know, back, and if I don't, like, I love them, and just, you know, the normal, I'm gonna make it, but I might not, because this thing is just on my heels, you know, and it won't let her get away. It's just, it's tracking the blood that she's losing, or, you know, things like that. And so this thing's dead, and you think she's gonna get away, and all of a sudden another one of those little balls pop up, and she's standing like 4 feet from it. And I was sitting back in my seat, and I wanted to like sit up and be like, run, dodge, something. I was like, you know what this is? And just a bunch of shrapnel shot out, and I was like, ah, no. So she got hit with a bunch of trackers this time, not just one. So she's like, oh, man. So she goes back in the house, and she's like sitting in front of this mirror, and she's looking, and she has her knife out. She's ready to cut him out again. She's like, I just took out this dog. I want to get back to my family. And then she's like looking at where all they are, and there's like one right here in her neck, and she's like, if I cut that one, I'm dead. So she radios in, and she's like, I'm not gonna make it, you know. And she basically just, you know, does it. But then it pans out, and like, this is where it really hits home. I was like, dang, this is such a hard episode, because like, you're with her the whole entire time. You're like, take out that dog sucks. But it pans out, and like, you see a ton of these dogs start to swarm the house she's at because of all the trackers. And then, you know, the car crash where she lost her car, there's dogs there, and then there's dogs at the warehouse where the people got killed. And like, so it really wasn't just one dog. There's like a whole army that we don't even know of. You know, we have this whole story, we don't know how they came to be, whether it was like a mad scientist or like an experiment gone wrong, like an alien race, like, who knows? I mean, we don't know how the dogs came to be, but we know that there's more than just the one. And then we go from the warehouse into the warehouse, and we see, the guy who died first, and we see the box that, the crate that he pulled down, and the contents of the crate were, teddy bears or, some sort of stuffed animal, and basically they just went on a mission to get a replacement teddy bear for her sister's son. And that's when, like, it really hits you, like, they did all this, they risking their lives, to keep that joy alive for the young one. And I was just like, well dang, man. Dang. So that one was a really hard one. But again, that's one reason why it's one of my favorites. And then, of course, they had to end on a banger, so then they hit us with Black Museum for number 6. And right off the bat, I mean, they put us in, I don't know, it looks like some old school Route 66, barren, desert, back roads-ish kind of stuff. And she pulls off gas stations, and she pulls out this, like, it looked like at first she was just going to put gas in her car, but then she pulled out this solar panel thing, set it on the back of her car, and it was like she was charging her car. And it said that it was going to take like 3 hours. So, I mean, again, futuristic car, but it looked really old school and classic, and I really dug it. But, so she goes over this thing called Black Museum, and I was like, ugh, what is this going to be? So, she's trying to get in, and it says tour started at 11, and I guess it was 11 o'clock, because she kept trying to pull on the door. So anyway, this really creepy guy comes out, and it's like, yeah, like, could be a busy day. And it was just him and her. And I'm like, dude, you're delusional. And so then, like, he's talking to her, and he's like, well, where's your accent from? She's like, I'm from Britain or whatever. And then he's like, well, I guess it's just you and me then. And he takes her in, and he's like, sorry for the, the buggy AC or whatever. Like, electronic AC, you can't, trust it. And the guy's just being really creepy. And it's basically, what it ends up being is just this museum of, he's a collector of anything that is attached to a crime. And what's really cool, and I haven't gone back and looked to see what all I can see, but like at first glance, like just watching it the one time, and I'm going to binge watch this thing again. I saw the mask from White Bear. I can't remember what season it's from. And this was like 2, I think, is what White Bear is from. And then just from this season, we saw that machine, the DNA machine that he like put Tommy's lollipop in, from the USS Callister. I think the tablet was also in there, the broken tablet from Archangel, but I'm not sure. And then he goes on to tell, and I love episodes like this, and there's some other series that do this, and even some movies have, where it's many stories in one episode, because I feel like I'm getting like my bang for my buck in a sense. So he goes on and he's showing her these things, and he's like, hey, this weird head contraption, this is what that is. And then you get like a short story, like a pro in a sense of like, what this is about. And we hear the story of this doctor who got this thing put in his neck and would, it was a receiver, and then he'd put this, net thing on patients, and he would start to cure patients that way, and saying, oh, this is what a heart attack feels like, this is what a leg pain feels like, this is what, a headache feels like, to the smallest thing. And then that way, if somebody else came in with the same symptom, he's like, that's a simple headache, or, oh, this person's having a heart attack, and then, again, Black Mirror, like, I should get a thing that's like, Black Mirror, he experienced someone who actually dies while, the person's wearing the net, and he couldn't take out the receiver, it was always in there, and, he conquers death in a sense, because he passes out and he comes back, and then all of a sudden it twists, and now he's addicted to the pain. Because he experiences what they're going through, but he doesn't get any of the physical elements from it. Like, if someone has a leg missing, they just had a horrible thing and their leg's missing, like, he feels the pain and the agony they're going through, but, like, his leg doesn't fall off or anything like that. So all of a sudden, like, he's trying to find the patients that have the worst symptoms and like that. He's literally just like a junkie. He's like, I need it. and he literally like almost lets this person die. Like, just he wants to ride it out and everything, and they basically just have to pull him off this one lady because she's just gonna die, and they send him home. And so then he starts cutting into himself, and it just wasn't the same because the fear of death wasn't there. Then he just jumps this hobo, and the cops get him, and then he just basically put himself into a coma because of what it did to the hobo. And I'm trying to, and then we get a look into again, we saw a lot the San Junipero device in this season. We saw that a lot. And I'm not disappointed with it. I like it. So this one was basically, and long story short, because I'm already running on like 5.5 minutes here. It was basically if someone died or was in a coma or whatever, taking their, I can't remember the word they used, their mind in a sense, or them, and putting them into your brain, and basically it was just you saying their consciousness is what it was. You basically just have a backseat driver in your mind, and it was this husband and wife, and the wife got put into a coma because she got hit by a car. And it was just this bad story of it worked out at first, and then he didn't like her nagging him all the time, and because she couldn't actually be there, and then all of a sudden the dad got more privileges so he could put her on pause whenever he wanted to, and that made her even more mad. And again, Black Mirror, they ended up putting her consciousness into like a teddy bear. And where she only had 2 buttons on like this seat that she was sitting in, and it was like happy face and sad face, and it like because they had a kid, and like that's why they did all this in the very first place. So they gave it to the kid, but of course the kid was going to grow out of a teddy bear, and after a little bit of time, it just kind of got thrown to the side, and that was another thing that was in the museum, and that's why we got told this story. So then we move on to the main attraction, and it was during these previous 2 stories that we just got told on the news. We hear about this lady who got this newscaster or whatever, who got abducted and killed or whatever, and we see this what looks like a hologram, but like old school black and white TV hologram, like fuzzy prisoner behind this glass. We get his whole story all of a sudden, and it's basically just he did it, he killed her, he got thrown in prison, and the guy who runs the museum, he was the one who masterminded the first 2 stories. He got him to sign this thing where if God forbid he gets put in the electric chair, the guy basically gets to keep him. And I'm not, I'm trying not to ruin every single thing for you guys, and I know I've already kind of said some of the stuff from the other episodes, but he basically captured this guy just to make him an attraction. And so he has this, it's weird again because it's the future, so like the hologram, it's still like a living thing, so like it is this guy's consciousness, or I did not say that word right, but you know what I'm trying to say. So this guy is like fully aware of what's happening, and so people would come and pay to electrocute this guy again. Like that was the whole scheme. Like the guy, the hologram, whatever, was just like, oh, what's going on, blah blah blah, and all of a sudden like they would hit this button, and then he'd be in like the electric chair, and then they would pay, and then they would get to pull the lever themselves to shock a real prisoner. But because he's a hologram, like they could only do it for so long, and then he wouldn't die, But then some people stopped coming, and there's like this whole story. And earlier on in the thing, because it was so hot, because the AC was broken, the girl offered this guy who ran the museum some water, and turned out it was poisoned. Then, comes the whole twist and turn of Black Mirror, of, that's actually the prisoner's daughter. So, some other stuff happens, and, again, that's kind of like, I'll leave it there, leave it foggy for you guys. So some cool stuff happens. But one of the cool things I like is that we learned about putting people's consciousness and other things and people in that episode, and right at the very end she adjusts the mirror to look at herself, and it's cool, she takes the bear with her that has the lady's consciousness in it with her as well, but she adjusts the mirror to look at her and she goes, did I do good, Mom? Because you find out that the mom had died earlier, and you see the mom inside of her, so she had put her mom's consciousness in her, and it was really cool. So I was like, man, yes, Black Mirror delivering again. I was like, I didn't see that coming. So, I don't know, it's just really cool. And I wish it was more than 6 episodes. I wish if it was 6 episodes, it was a lot more frequent than a year, because I'm addicted to Black Mirror, let me tell you. But this has been my first review. I know it's nothing shiny, and it needs a lot of polishing, and but feel free to have tons of discussions in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about the season or previous seasons, or what your favorite episode was. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, because that's what YouTube wants, and it'd be cool to meet some new people and have conversations with. So yeah, hope you guys have a wonderful day and New Year and everything, or whenever you watch this. So